What up, everybody? Hey, Trey, check now. What up, everybody? Hopefully, y'all can see me. I'm about to check myself. You see me? Yeah. All right. YouTube got to kick in at some point. I'm trying to see YouTube. Make sure okay, yeah, YouTube is on. Okay, so look, welcome to the stream, everybody. We're about to watch some of the Diddy case. You know what I'm saying? I got a couple hours, so I'm gonna sit here and watch Akademiks stream with y'all. We can all give our opinion, and he read. I like watching Akademiks. What's up, DeMarcus? What's up, everybody? Caleb. I like watching Akademiks stream because he reads the transcript. So since I got a couple hours, I got at least till 1 o'clock. I'm gonna watch some of this with y'all, and yeah. So shout out to everybody that's in here. Demarius, RR fam, what's up? Caleb Pike, my boy Caleb. Alex, what's up? What's up? Yeah. So we're gonna watch some of the case. So let's do this.
Anyway, let's get to the. We are now in court. We're gonna
check this out.
Get caught up on this trial. One thing I should tell you is that we're at what's called summary witnesses. So all of the witnesses that could bring forth evidence and bring forth their own testimony to their own POV of what they witnessed or saw.
Y'all hit that like
Those
button.
People are done.
Hit that
the
like
government has announced in the Diddy trial today, they're going to have what's called summary witnesses starting today until they end. Now, what is a summary witness? A summary witness is someone that's going to tie together all of these points the government has been trying to make through these other.
This case have really been crazy.
Actually, I've seen a nice little definition.
Oh, eating wings. Let's fast forward a little bit. Try to get to
that somebody pulled up. Because even us, we don't believe that at this point. Everybody keeps saying, yo, this is domestic violence, right? So they're trying to drive it home before they end. Now, keep in mind, what did I say? No Christina Karam, no D-Rock, no Uncle Paulie. Who else? No James Cruz. There's a lot of people that we expected that if they really had Diddy dead to rights, would have flipped on Diddy, yet none of them have taken the stand. It's important.
And I want y'all to comment, say what you think about what's going on.
The purpose is to provide a clear, concise summary of the evidence shown, and they're especially helpful in RICO cases which involve intricate patterns of legal conduct of the time. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. So they're not a fact witness. They're not going to testify about a personal involvement in the events, but rather analyze and present evidence already introduced in the trial. The testimony is based on admissible evidence.
And we're going in. Today there's
facts. So that's the thing. No,
here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse.
Just going off what's already
here we go.
There. Okay. So let's get to this. And by the way, there's a juror that was.
But can y'all hear me though?
Or Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse today, Monday, June 16th, and we're here for day 24 of U.S. versus Sean Combs, and we're going in today. There should be either today or tomorrow. I'm hoping today. Brandon Paul. He was described as the drug mule of Combs, and I think he's given that he actually faced some prosecutorial.
Can y'all hear me though? That's what I need to know. I need to know, am I heard? Somebody let me know, am I heard?
Fire. He may be in a better position. Last week on Friday, Jonathan Perez describing his day-to-day work setting up King's nights for Sean Combs and guests, and then being grilled about who leaked one of the videos that he found on an iPad. It was very reminiscent of Capricorn Park getting grilled on Broadway. Anyway, we're down to the wire here. We're down to at least on the government's case. The big fight that we're heading in right now for is about Juror 6. It's funny. The fight is over. It would seem. On Friday, Judge Subramanian said he's out. Juror 6 had said he lived in the Bronx, then he said he visits his girlfriend / mother of his child in New Jersey. Then supposedly, after a...
Summer's not holding back.
So one of the
Neither
jurors
should you.
got kicked off the case? It's too far into the case to be getting kicked off. Oh my God.
And so Romanian said, that's it. It seems clear.
Now, let me stop him there. There was an email
Okay.
put out. So the defense did write a letter saying, let's keep this juror. So y'all understand why they want to dismiss this juror. Lack of candor means you have lied. You've not been honest. You've not been forthcoming.
Oh, he
On the
lied
questionnaire,
about
the
where
it's called the questionnaire
to
for the
become
jury.
a juror. He
One of the
lied
persons said they lived in the Bronx.
to become a juror.
Apparently now they told, I guess, the jury staff, I guess they probably said, damn, man, I got to go catch the train to get back to Jersey. And they're like, Jersey? Fuck you doing in Jersey? Oh, my girl lived there. I stay with my girl. And that person rose the issue to say, this juror ain't supposed to live out of this district. They live out of this district, okay?
Okay,
oh, wow.
I get it.
Oh, wow. Nigel Davis, thank you for the 20, says, I'm getting married on August 29th. Congratulations, my brother.
Yes, sir. Congratulations.
You know what I was thinking about recently? I was like, yo, I seen some shit. For a man who's getting married, if you found a woman who could... So a man would say,
All right, here we go.
got rejected.
Here we go. The transcript
Who said I said
be
that?
here for.
Yeah, I think people mistook... you know what? Let me try to find that. And by the way, bro, let me just finish my dude's donation that had... Let's get married. Let me make sure things going on there. So a man would say, I'm getting married on August 29th. My CA is my username. If anyone could help. I'm gonna blame Kai for anything having to do with Wale because y'all favorite artists. So artists are going towards clout, not going towards like their fan base. So don't go towards the clout, which is Kai.
That juror 6 was a problem, but didn't...
Obviously they have an ethical responsibility to make sure someone doesn't have lack of candor issues. But I think they think this person, based on them summing it up now, this person was dying to get on the jury because they're in favor of Diddy. So they want this motherfucker out of here, right? Now, keep in mind, I don't know if you guys watched the YNW Melly trial. YNW Melly, that mistrial supposedly came from one juror. It only takes one. One juror said, I don't give a fuck what y'all niggas say. I'm not voting guilty because I don't think he did it.
It's great.
I don't think he did it. That person was unable to be convinced, and at a certain point, the judge accepted that this was going to end in a mistrial. Now, obviously, the state elected to try him again, and that's why he's still in Broward County, and he's still awaiting his second trial for double homicide. However, it takes one juror, people, one juror.
That shit is crazy.
So cool. So the next thing, well, I want to read you guys the letter. And by the way, if you're wondering why I'm not rushing to get to like this witness on the stand, they're not giving any new information. They're just summing shit up, right? They're just giving a summary. All right, okay.
All right, this is what the defense
this is
wrote.
from the juror. Not the juror, I mean the defense. This is from
defense.
Alexander Shapiro. Okay, so they wrote a letter saying, don't dismiss this juror, and it doesn't look like they've made a ruling yet. Doesn't look like they've made a ruling yet, huh?
But he shouldn't have lied, though. He shouldn't have lied that he saying he was from New York when you know you're not from New York. And now you done got caught 24 days into this man's case. You know how many testimonies have been done, and then this nigga done lied about where he lived, and now they might have to get another juror? That shit is crazy. Bro, lock his ass.
Now, remember, chat, there's
crazy.
18 people who's in the jury box. There's 12 that are going to vote, but there's 6 alternates. The alternates are ranked, right?
Okay, they got all.
If the jurors, And by the way, I finally seen there's a website, Diddy. But there's a male, he's 31, breakdown right now. We don't know which one's 6. But there's a male, he's 31. He's an investment analyst or analyst.
Yeah.
There's a 39-year-old male. He's a social worker. A 41-year-old male. We don't have race demographics. Prison communications worker. There's a scientist. There's a retired person from finance, 68. Okay? There's another 68 male retired telecommunications person. There's a...
Y'all, this an old ass jury. I'm not gonna lie to you. 68, 68, 67, 69, 74? Bro, 68, 68, 67, 69, 74 years old. Diddy up there with that gray ass hair. I don't know, man. God
logistics analyst. Now, I'll say this. I've noticed people who tend to work in mathematical or science fields are very logic-based. They're very black and white, right? While people who work in social fields like social workers and other fields of the sort, they're a psychologist, they're able to, kind of look at things in a gray area. So, for example, somebody who works in logistics or maybe a scientist, it's either A or B. There's no A-B or something in the middle.
Oh, that works for me.
While someone that might be a social worker or someone that might have the understanding of, psychology.
If they looking at it like it's black and white, like it's either this or this, then that work in Diddy's favor because it's been a lot of Diddy lawyers have caught a lot of people in lies up there. So if they going by that logic, then that's like saying, if they going by that logic, it's like, oh, okay, they lying. So he can't be. They wanted to do this shit. They lying. You know what I mean? So hopefully that's not the way they looking at it for the prosecution. I'm sure they hoping that's not the way they looking at it.
Ology or sociology, they might be like, yeah, she's not telling all the way truth.
See?
Yeah, she forgot a couple things, but people don't forget the sentiment. That did happen, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this. We are kind of seeing some people who work with numbers. So if you ask me, if I'm Diddy, I want people that work with numbers on this case. Because there's certain stuff that sounds like sex traffic. It's one of those, right? Where it's like, kinda, not really. You want the person who's gonna say, no. There's no kinda, no really. There's either yes or no.
No.
Either
Yeah,
it 100% looks like it or 100% no. Now, granted, the standard to find him guilty is beyond a reasonable doubt. However, these jurors are gonna vote. They're not gonna apply that, necessarily to their vote. They might be like, I heard enough. There's so much smoke, nigga. There's a fire somewhere. So there's a social worker. Okay, so we got somebody from finance. I think that's good for Diddy. Telecommunications, I can't tell. Prison communications, can't tell. Investment analyst, I think that's good too. So investment analyst, scientists, I think that's good. Retired from finance, I think that's good. Logistics analyst, I think that's good. Banking, okay? You want numbers.
Actor and massage therapist, 69.
It's either $1 or $2. It's not like, it's $1.20. No, nigga, we're only
this motherfucker 69 still massaging people?
Actor and a massage therapist. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, that's
There's
wild.
a deli clerk. Okay.
A deli clerk.
By the way, these are the females. It's a 30-year-old female. It's a deli clerk.
And it's
I'd be a little bit concerned about this.
Yeah, for sure.
Nursing aide.
A CNA.
No.
He probably don't even know what that is. But that's a CNA.
Physician's assistants.
Getting
and
money.
Former treatment coordinator. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 4
females,
4 women, 8
males. 4 women, 8 males.
Not bad. And I also hear that there is more than half that are African Americans. That's what I heard as well. Okay. So, cool. I bet.
I'm good, Zed.
All right. Also, let's see if we can find it. Can we find the...
Watch a little case. I got to go do something about 1:30.
Great. This
So
is a
I want to hop on
superseding.
here with y'all. You know what I mean? Y'all make sure.
So this is
hit that like
SS3.
button. Boys.
Okay.
I might
Now,
just
the
check
reason
in
why I'm
now.
doing some of this chat is that we're starting to wrap this shit up.
Yeah, for sure.
When we saw the indictment weeks ago, if not months ago, we just saw charges on a sheet. We were gonna see if these things are provable. Well, all of the witnesses to provide factual evidences have already testified.
Yeah,
So we're now at
wow,
the
man.
part where,
Stick around for what
yeah,
you
we're
about.
getting these summary witnesses, but we're also trying to figure out, did they prove it based on what we know? So let's go down to it. Okay, we know the enterprise, they're still trying to prove that. But let's go to the charges. So the first charge is the charge
I'm on now.
of,
I'm on
me a second.
Twitch and YouTube. I
Where's
just
the count?
logged out and then
Okay.
relogged back.
So count one is RICO. Count one is RICO. Right?
Uh-huh.
Now,
Sex
we all know that's a big
by
charge.
force, fraud.
I'm not too sold on it. I could see Diddy possibly beating it, even though there's so many things in it. I've told you about the anatomy of a RICO charge. We have predicate acts and overt acts. Predicate acts consist of, I believe, about 17 offenses federally. Let me see, how
Okay,
many
yeah, David's
predicate
here
acts?
now. Yeah, you
Jesus.
see. I literally just sent you a message.
How many predicate acts, well, offenses in federal RICO? It might be more. Okay, it's 35 of them, actually. So it's 35 predicate crimes that fall under RICO, okay? And they include these things: bribery, forced bribery, counterfeit, theft, embezzlement, extortion, credit transaction, fraud, multiple frauds, mail fraud, wire fraud, financial fraud, unlawful procurement of citizenship, reproduction of naturalization and citizenship papers, sale of naturalization, obscene matter, obstruction of justice, criminal investigations, obstruction of state or law enforcement, tampering with a witness. Okay, it's just a lot. Murder for hire. We see murder for hire, which that's Dirk.
God damn.
Sexual exploitation of children, interstate transportation of stolen property, money laundering, gambling, illegal gambling, right? Welfare funds,
Well, you can follow that
wagering,
RICO for almost
paraphernalia,
anything.
transportation aid and racketeering enterprises,
That's everything.
interference with commerce by threats of violence, peonage, slavery, and trafficking of people.
Oh, perfect.
Which this is where the Mann Act falls under that too. I think that's 1591, 18 USC 1591. Fraud, misuse of passport, forgery, There's a lot tied against a witness, informants, tampering with an informant. Okay, so there's a lot of things that fall under there, and trafficking. Okay,
Man,
so
Diddy.
sex trafficking falls under this one, right? But arson and shit like that also is there too. Cool. So we're not gonna get into count one like that. That's gonna be where this whole case is determined. As I said, if Diddy gets found guilty on that, he's gonna get 20 years. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
There's no
Diddy will
way,
get-
bro. I can't see them giving Diddy 20 years after listening to this case every day. Because even in the mornings when I was doing my work and stuff, in the mornings I would just listen to it. While I'm editing, while I'm, anything. I'm like, bro, the way this case is went, it'll be, like, I don't, it ain't my business. But it just seems like it's too equal. Like, Diddy could lose, Diddy could win, but he could win, though. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of stuff have went in Diddy's favor. So, it's, it's going to be crazy to see.
20 years in prison, federal prison, if he gets found guilty on count one, which is RICO.
Yes, sir.
Count two, it's a sex trafficking. It's not a RICO charge, this is a separate charge. But this is the sex trafficking of and victim one. So the second charge is, did he sex traffic victim one? Now, if he sex trafficked victim one, I've told you this before, it also falls up in the RICO as well. But if they couldn't prove the other stuff with the RICO, they could just get isolated charge. I'll ask y'all, do you think Cassie was sex trafficked? That's up to y'all.
I ain't gonna
If you
lie.
say yes,
I don't think Cassie was sex trafficked. All those texts and stuff of Cassie begging to do the freak offs, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It don't feel like sex traffic to me. It seemed like she was trying to please Diddy. Like you know how like if you try to make your girlfriend happy or you try to make your boyfriend happy, that's for real though. That's kind of what it feels like. You know what I mean? And so if I had to choose, I would kind of say I don't know about the sex trafficking thing because it was a lot of text. I mean, it was a lot of texts of her begging to do the freak offs, and I know you can be scared and all that, but at the end of the day, that's free will. You know what I mean? She's texting him. She's setting up freak offs too. So I don't know about that one.
y'all the jury at this point. If you say yes, you would vote yes that he's guilty. If you say no, he would be not guilty on count 2. Count 3. And I think this is going to be an easier charge. If anything, I think Diddy's best chance, I don't see him being not guilty on all charges. I see him being not guilty on the sex trafficking charges. And then the RICO, that's going to be a big if. But if he beats that W, I think if he gets found guilty of prostitution right here, which is, let's count 3. I think he still hugs his lawyers in court.
Hey, now, he did this. He was hiring strippers and using them as prostitutes, not female strippers. He was getting strippers, exotic dancers and stuff, and flying the men to wherever him and Cassie was. You know, now, the transportation to engage in prostitution, that was proven. You know what I mean? That was proven. I definitely think he gonna get found guilty of count 3. Because Diddy was paying them very well, too. He was paying them and shit, so... And he was flying these men in to have sex with Cassie. You feel what I'm saying? So I definitely think he's going to be guilty of count 3.
You ever see one of those where they get found guilty or not guilty of like 90% of things, but they get one guilty and they still happy as fuck, they crying tears? Yeah, because this, Diddy would have to serve 2 years. 2 years, you're done with this. You know, get married, stop doing freak offs. Well, I don't know if you will. And just get your life back on track. Right?
Bro, just be a swinger, bro.
So this is the prostitution thing.
Damn.
And
just be a swinger, bro. It ain't nothing wrong. Like,
here's the thing.
Do your thing.
This becomes, it's the transportation of victim 1 and sex workers. So Cassie and the sex workers. Now, this kind of lines up with sex trafficking. You got to remember, they overcharge him a bit. If they can't get him for sex trafficking, they want to get him for prostitution. So sex trafficking means by force, fraud, or coercion, which means they weren't willing. If they can't get him for, if you listen to him, be like, nah, I think Cassie was willing. And all the sex workers claim they were willing too. So this is not sex trafficking. If you can't get him for that, you then look to the next thing. Well, if it ain't sex trafficking where they're being forced, it's definitely prostitution, right? It's prostitution. Even though his defense is, I never paid none of these people directly. Somebody else paid him. Okay? Cool. And then Diddy's argument is going to be, were you paid for your time or were you paid for just sex? The prosecution is trying to make the case to say he was paying for sex and would even compensate more when they ejaculate, right? Okay, so let's go to count 4. Count 4 is another sex trafficking charge, but this
crazy.
Is of victim 2. Victim 2. So this is J Doe. This is 55 years. Mom. Do you think, chat, we're voting at this point. We're doing a preliminary vote. We're going to do many votes until we get to a verdict, chat.
Yeah.
Just bear with me.
Count 4.
Do you believe that Jane Doe, 50 Cent's baby mom, victim 2, do you believe Jane Doe was sex trafficked? Do you believe that she was forced to do commercial sex acts brought across state lines and they influence and disrupt?
Who is that? Metaro? So yeah, Metaro, that's what I'm saying. Like I believe he'll get found guilty of count 3 because he was flying those guys in to have sex, and that's, you know, the prostitution. You know what I mean? So But as far as Cassie, I mean, it's texts of Cassie begging to do a freak off. You know what I mean? It's texts of her saying, "Ooh, I can't wait to do a freak off. Let's have a freak off tonight." Like, and he's like, "Well, if you want to do it, you set it up." So I'm not gonna sit here. You know, it really don't matter to me. But I'm not gonna just say that's trafficking her. Now the prostitution thing, he was using those exotic dancers. You know what I'm saying? So he can get caught with that prostitution.
To interstate commerce by her doing these commercial sex acts that he didn't want to do, and she was forced to do by actual force, by fraud, or by coercion. What do you guys think? Let me know.
I don't know. She had a contract.
But this is about Jane Doe. Let's go to count 5.
God
This
damn.
becomes, remember, if they can't get him for count 4, just like it's like piggyback charges. If they can't get him for sex trafficking, so the big one is RICO. If the RICO gets, if he gets found guilty of RICO, and I think I've said this to y'all, if he gets found guilty of RICO, all of it is going to be a guilty on all charges.
Yeah, this is a lot of crimes.
Because the RICO is the hardest to prove.
Trey.
Then they separated sex trafficking just for Cassie. But if they can't prove the sex trafficking, they say, well, prostitution for Cassie and the sex workers. Then they say sex trafficking for Jane Doe, aka Daphne Joy. And if they can't prove that, it becomes prostitution for Daphne Joy and the sex workers. Get me? And that's the 5 counts. Okay? That's it. That is it.
Yeah, if Diddy don't,
So
he can beat this.
with that being said,
I'll be right back.
the 2 witnesses that matter is Jane Doe, 50 Cent baby mama Daphne Joy, and also Cassie. Now you might say, what about these other people who claim they got beaten, right? Like Mia, Capricorn Clark, claims she was abused. Well, all of that comes into either establishing the enterprise, RICO, or other predicate acts under RICO. With RICO, you need 2 predicate acts, 2. Now the predicate acts they've listed under RICO, or predicate offenses, right? Okay, I told you there's 35 of them. Predicate acts under RICO, I'll tell you what it is. Give me a second.
I had to go use the restroom.
Where is it? Okay.
R. Kelly got how many years
So-
less? Oh no.
So there's
R. Kelly was not. Do you know what R. Kelly was doing? And for how many years into children? R. Kelly was fucking kids. This is a grown women getting gang banged and shit is not worse than R. Kelly fucking children. Kidnapping women. When they got him, it was bitches stuck in the, it was, man. R. Kelly was wilding, man.
they're alleging kidnapping. They're alleging arson. They're alleging what else? Kidnapping, arson, bribery. They're alleging tampering with witness, victim or informant. They're alleging forced labor, the Mann Act. They're alleging sex trafficking. They're alleging prostitution. They're alleging, all right, so we got to count all these up. A, kidnapping. B, arson.
Yeah, that's crazy. Diddy was kidnapping motherfuckers.
C,
He did blow the
bribery.
proceed.
D, tampering
Allegedly.
with witness. E, forced labor. F, sex trafficking. G, transportation and inducement for travel purposes of prostitution or other legal services. H,
Beating your spouse is domestic violence. Yeah, they not even bringing that up because that's just too little. You know, fighting and all of that shit to your spouse. And then it was people got on the stand saying she would hit him too. So it just made it look like they was on some toxic shit. So I believe that's too small for them to mix in with this big shit they trying to get Diddy for. You know, he was whooping her ass, but it was people got on the stand said they've seen her take off on him too. So the ass whoopings, they not finna bring it up.
narcotics distribution. Okay? Distribution and possession. Okay? With the intent to distribute. Okay. So what's that? That's 8. There's 8 predicate acts that they believe that Diddy has done. They need to prove 2 out of the 8. You understand? They need to prove 1/4. 1/4. So 2 out of 8. Some of these might be easier than others to prove. Kidnapping. Would we call what happened in an Intercontinental Hotel kidnapping? Did Cassie say she couldn't leave?
She tried to leave.
She tried to leave.
Yeah, she tried to leave.
He beat her. He dragged her back.
Yeah.
Did she say he prevented her to leave? That could be something that could be, voted on and say yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Diddy's lawyer's been trying to address that too. That's why they talked so long about that video. Also, other people who said whatever, that's hearsay, pretty much. Like, yeah, he beat the door down, he came in, he threw something at my head, we couldn't go nowhere. You're not gonna find a nigga guilty and give him 20 years off of word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
Unless there's a lot of word of mouth, right? Arson.
Are
you gonna say he blew up Big Cardi car?
I
don't think you could find him guilty on arson. So I don't think this is proved.
Nah.
Right.
There was no proof.
Here's 100,000.
Yeah.
Delete the video.
Yeah. He did that.
Delete the video. That's a decent point.
Yeah.
Diddy was always paying for things to keep people quiet. Paying for things to keep people quiet. Tampering with witnesses. That comes in when he was calling Dawn Rashad. She was, at the time, possibly Kalina. And also even how they were trying to speak with, was it Mia or someone else? And that was supposed to be an attempt to subvert what was a grand jury hearing. That would be tampering with the witness. Forced labor. These people say they have to work 20 plus hours a day. At times, they didn't get paid for it. They had no choice, as many of them say. Was that convincing enough? Keep in mind, you gotta agree 100%. You have to have no doubt in your mind. Sex trafficking. We talked about that already.
I don't know.
It would be sex trafficking of either Jane Doe or Cassie.
So they have to prove whether or not the prostitution was consensual or confirm it's human.
And another prostitution thing and drugs.
Basically.
We'll see. All right. Okay. I think we are ready.
All right, y'all. We finna read he gonna read the transcripts. That's why I watch it, because he.
So let's go again.
The court
this
transcript.
is a summary witness. Bear with me, people. There's no new info that's coming out today. Maybe some new motions.
Cassie was
and maybe the judge might hear a few
kidnapped.
things.
We don't know.
And we might get a glimpse of what the the defense case is going to be. So Justice Morania says, I hope everybody had a good weekend. The defense has a motion for a NAPA, or NAP, I don't know, I'm probably saying it wrong, instruction to the jury. So there's an instruction that the defense has requested. They said that because they believe that Banna, Miss Bungalong, committed perjury, and I'm not gonna lie, the AUSA's kind of agreed that, we think it happened, or it did happen, but her details were definitely wrong. They're saying that is something perjurous. It's lies. Could you tell the jurors to not think about anything she said? The judge has agreed, or not agreed, has disagreed and said, I denied the motion's defense. I denied the defense motion. Now in juror 6. Last week, the defense posed a further question of the juror. I took time to reconsider. The defense observes in its June 15th letter, here, the record raises serious concerns about the juror shading his answers to be on the jury. The shift in answers raise questions about the juror's credibility, so the court has indicated that juror 6 should be dismissed. The defense now urges further questioning. The judge says the defense raised concerns about replacing an African-American juror with a white one and cite the Second Circuit case. The courts take this very seriously, but further question is inappropriate and might negatively impact the jury. That's why we have alternates. Mr. Donaldson praised the diversity of the jury and said the process worked wonderfully. The defense asked the court to base its decision on race. That would be inappropriate.
That's crazy.
So juror 6 is excused and is going to be replaced by the first alternative. So the judge is saying, y'all made a request that if we're going to take off a black juror, we should put it on another black juror. If we made the decision based on race, that would be prejudicial as well. So we're going to excuse a juror since you had previously agreed that the jury was very diverse. We're going to excuse that juror, which is now we get to realize
Did
a black
J-Lo
juror.
testify now?
And he's going to be replaced by the first
didn't even
alternate.
mention J-Lo name.
Is a white one. Okay? As to the defense allegations of prosecutorial misconduct here that is inviting the court to make a decision based on race, it can't be granted. As to the issue about another juror that arose on Friday, and apparently there's another juror they got an issue with. We don't know. So I'll question that juror at the end of today's session. The party should tell me if we clear the courtroom or do it in the Roman room. If any event, the press and the public are not allowed to hear and report in real time. If jury gone, why Roman room? All right. So Inner City Press says if the jury's gone, why Roman room? Okay. The jurors enter. The judge says, welcome back. The government may call its next witness. The AUSA says, first, let's do some exhibits. They're entered on a seal. They're subject to connection. Now we'll call our first witness, Miss Sankar.
All right.
Sankar pops up. She's a paralegal, a specialist for the U.S. Attorney's Office. It says, what did you work on in this case? Sankar says, I did 2 summary charts. I was asked to verify the accuracy of. So could you help describe the documents of these underlying these charts? Well, it's hundreds of pages of documents. It says, who's in the message in this particular charts? That's KK, Christina Karam. And whose cell phone is this? That's Brendan Paul. How did Ms. Karam respond to Mr. Lopez about seeing the escort? Sankar says, 4 laughing emojis. So Ms. Karam responded to Mr. Lopez about seeing the escort. 4 laughing emojis. Is he going to stay awake? How long is he going to stay awake? And this one from January 30th, 2023. It's an audio file. Yes. So Ms. Foster, could you play the first minute and 10 seconds? They play. There's a female voice saying 2 things are weird. The only person who was you. Someone found an iPad. Remember, somebody found an iPad of Jane Doe getting her guts rearranged. It says yes. So what did Mr. Karam say in this audio? She says he's going to the 4 Seasons and wants you to bring Gatorade and chicken noodle soup. So read these. So that'll be Dave Shirley. Rock riding with him. Sankar is in KK says no to Rock. Sankar is reading messages as KK. It says, hey, could you run 4,000 cash from Rock to the hotel? Sure. Sankar says, heads up, he's about to do a wild king night. AUSA says, forgot to pick up the money. Just give it to Fa, just in case. AUSA says, what did the hotel write to Ms. Karam? Sankar says, the hotel call, Paul is coming up. AUSA says, does Paul appear anywhere else in this chart? Sankar says, yes. Let's turn off the exhibit to the public. Judge says, just let me know when they're off. It's okay, cool, let's go. Please read these messages between Jane and Ms. Karam. Karam says, ask them if they could bring up 15 bath towels. AUSA says he always brings between 5 and 10K. They're expecting people to leave the presidential suite at 1. Now, chat, I don't know if you know what's going on.
5 to 10K is crazy.
Since Christina Karam is not going to take the stand, what's happening is that they have seized the messages that they are just going to introduce into court. They're in the discovery. They could be read into the evidence, right? There can't be any type of explanation about these text messages. It can't be like, what did you mean? It has to be blatantly what the messages say.
Yeah.
They've fought back and forth on what should be admitted, and that's why they're doing this, okay? So KK says, ask them if we could bring 15 bath towels. He always brings between 5 and 10,000. They're expecting people to leave the presidential suite at 1. We're taking off. Says, and these, Sankar says, these are setting up a flight for Jane. What's this? Flight information from Jessica Ruiz to KK for Arthur Jr. and Paul. And these, can you pick up the cash for Guido at Mapleton? There we go. All right, let's keep it going. Oh, look like this thing got fractured again. So, this was 9 o'clock, says, wow, 3 hours ago. Fuck.
Yeah, they 3 hours in already.
Now here we go.
I'll be right back, y'all. Talk to each other. I'll be right back.
What does Crom write to Sean? She writes, Guido outside. Combs replies with an audio message. Play it. Combs sounds hoarse. He says, about Guido, take care of it, please. So he says to Christina, take care of Guido. What did KK say? Done. AUSA says, do some of the messages involve Cassie Ventura? Sankar says, yes. AUSA says, page 5. May 2nd, 2017. What are these? Text between Cassie and KK. AUSA says, okay, I'll read as Cassie. You read as KK. What the fuck? Sankar as KK says, you okay? Cassie says, no one deserves to be dragged by their hair. AUSA says, row 87 to 92. April 20th, 2018, Cassie and KK. Cassie says, I just can't anymore. KK says, I'm here for you. Heart emoji. Cassie says, I'm bummed, but I don't want to derail. KK says, definitely don't derail. It's not worth it. AUSA says, let's turn to Jane's messages. You read Jane. Sankar says, we got into a fight. I'm not doing hotel night. I'll bring him a cake. So what's this date of this violin? November 16, 2023. What are these? Audio files from November 19th. Play it. Audio rings. Diddy says, yo, we really can't talk on this phone. You know what I'm saying? I called, I reached out. You know what I'm saying? My love is definitely true. Just some kinky shit that I thought we definitely enjoyed. Audio. So it looked like Jane recorded him. Jane recorded. Oh, that's the lineup. Wow. Jane recorded him 3 days after Cassie's lawsuit. You see? This is when Cassie filed. A day later, there's a settlement. 2 days later, Jane Doe calls him, and he's saying we can't really talk on his phone. You know what I'm saying? And she says, I don't know. It's like word for word. It's like crazy to me. It feels sick. Combs says, but like you know, and they turn the audio off. So play the next one. Diddy says, I really need your friendship right now. Don't send no text. Diddy, in a recorded audio, he says, I need to just tell you, I need your friendship. Baby, I've got to meet, you got to meet my moms. You know what I'm saying? Please pray for me. She says, okay. AUSA says, 3 days later, what are these? Say, KK writes, we all know your kryptonite. Wow. We all know your kryptonite. Holy. AUSA says, please make sure Robin make sure that rent is paid. It seems like they're talking about Jane. So I guess they're saying their kryptonite is Jane Doe, not Cassie. Which did not tell you that she would have a more significant importance and understanding, even though I think she butchered her testimony because she's still in love. So Diddy was saying, yo, make sure her rent get paid, bro. AUSA says, what's this? An image I found on Ms. Karam's phone from December 28th, 2023. A photo of the cell phone screen. It says, I lost work opportunities. I guess that's from Jane, right? Sankar says, this is Jane says, you broke me. You asked me what I needed to move on, and now you're upset. Look like that's when she's asking him for some money. She's asking $400,000. Sankar says, he said he was sent the tapes by my baby daddy. So Jane Daphne's texting KK. He said he was sent tapes to 50. I'm traumatized. He asked me who I'm seeing over and over again. Daphne. He said he'll send the sex tapes to the father of my child. On them, I'm drugged. I'm beyond hurt by him. AUSA says, what does KK says? I haven't spoken with him. AUSA says, in these photos of his cell phone, can you read them? Jane says, you fucked everything up. You win. AUSA says, what are these? Videos I found on KK's devices. Foster said, let's play it. There's a woman voice, says, like $1,000. So what's in the photo? It looks like a long manicured nail. What does KK write? They just chilling at his house. Out to shop like King Knight mode or Gucci bag mode. LOL. Your Honor, can we break here? They take a break. They come back. Sanker says, what does this exhibit show? Shows messages of Sean Combs and Damian Butler, aka D-Rock, and Mia. Turn off the screens to the public and the press. AUSA says, please read D-Rock's messages, and I'll read the other. D-Rock says, love you, man. If you need a friend here, I'm here. Combs says, I'll call you back. Talking to the kids. D-Rock says, where are you? AUSA says, Virginia Beach. Or no, Mia says, Virginia Beach. D-Rock texts her number to Combs. Mia to D-Rock says, oh, I didn't have my phone. I was scuba diving. D-Rock says that we're opening up a new restaurant on the 17th. He says he doesn't want anything from you. Mia says, super smart to stay in your bubble. Mia also says, I'm on an island off the coast of Honduras. D-Rock says, I love to hear about Honduras. Let me know I can send you something. Mia says, I never asked for anything. D-Rock says, I'm not allowed to send my sister a gift. AUSA says, did you have any other involvement in this case? Sanker says no. No further question. Ms. Garagos, Tenny gets up. Tenny says, Ms. Sandcarter, this message from Damian Butler to Sean Combs, let's pull up the exhibit. Line 363, days earlier, the legal filing. And Garagos says, could you please read Nat more? Says the article could have been worse. They're calling up a breakup fight. Garagos says, let's read some of the messages not included in the chart. Jane writes, I could be dropped off I could be dropped off at my building's front desk. KK writes, he speaks directly with Puff Daddy. I don't deal with him. LOL, right? Sanker says, right. Jane writes to KK, pulling up to the airport. Smiley face, I'm excited to surprise him. Garagos says, may I cover with AUSA Foster? Judge says, of course. Jurors, while we wait, I'm going to stand up and stretch. You may as well. Okay. Garagos says, I think we need to shut off the screens for the public and the press. November 22nd, 2023, between Jane and KK, right? Yes. Jane says, I'm not doing any more hard partying than this one, about 3 years of wasted time. Interesting, my people. Very interesting. Let me load up the chat over here. Give me a second. Everything's taking a second. So this is the first of, I don't know how many summary witnesses they're going to bring. I don't know. All right. Okay, we're cooking in here, chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're about 19,000 strong. Gotta get to 20. 19,000 strong overall. We got about 7K on the Academy, 6K on Akademiks, and then the numbers fall 3,500 on Rumble. Not Rumble, I mean Kick, and I believe 2,000 on Rumble. Okay. All right. Here's some more. So they're trying to turn the screens off. Okay. While we wait for that. Oh.
Live on.
Looks like Uncle's also out here. Here we go. There we go.
I got to court. I got up there about 8:58. The judge was already into his response. Yesterday, Alexandra Shapiro filed a motion with the court to resist and to support and detail the reasons why juror number 6 should remain on the jury. Now that juror number 6 is off the jury, juror number 6 was a black male. There's only one black male left on the jury. I think he was replaced with a white male. They talked about something. I think they both, the defense and the prosecution, has to question this new juror, you know, whatever that means. But at the end of the day, juror number 6 has been dismissed. This was a blow for Puff. It's not a good thing for Puffy. Today wasn't a good day, in my opinion. You know, when you have a jury of your peers, your true peers, you know, you feel better about your situation. Puffy being a black male, I think Puffy is a foundational black American male. You know, and Alexandra Shapiro talks about that. She talks about that in page 2.
Yeah, that's the letter.
Issues that go on. That's what it was. You know, they were going through this, and what they're trying to do now is, you know, which is what they've been trying to do. They got this girl on the stand, and she is just corroborating, trying to tie in, you know.
Oh, so Sanker is a woman.
Flying Paul from LA to Miami is the SEX trafficking and the SEX PROSTITUON, you know, and she's just, you know, it's all, you know, what they're attempting to prove. We got to see how it all shakes out. Supposedly this week is going to be the final week for the defense, for the prosecution, and then the defense will begin calling their witnesses who will come in and testify for Puff. We got to see who that person, you know, who those people are. I think that's going to be very important. Wayne 704, what's up? I think that's going to be very important. And I think, you know, a lot of the case is going to hinge upon these defense witnesses and what it is they come in to say and what it is they come in to do. But I'm going to get out of here. I think they're supposed to have Brendan Paul, who is they call him the drug mule. We already know what that's going to be the direct examination. He's probably have immunity, compelled to testify.
Wait, oh wow, they're still bringing other people in. Oh, look like they're just tying. I thought they were going to do this at the end of their case. So they're done with the victims. It seems like what they're really trying to tie in or tie up is sex trafficking. But some of the other stuff like the drugs is going to fall under RICO, and they're not done with that yet. But they're tying up count 2, 3, 4, and 5. But if they're still bringing more witnesses that's going to testify about like drug possession and stuff like that, that's only under the RICO.
For threat of prosecution. So they're going to put him on the stand, and Federated States of GM Kemet. Why Jules, the male escort, didn't testify? I'm thinking he wasn't there. How do you feel about that? I don't know anything about that, man. Thank you for the super chat, Federal the cheat, right? So we already know what they're gonna put Brendan Paul on the stand and say, oh, Puff did this, Puff did that. But what I always look for and what's always most important is the cross-examination. That is the good part. Do me a favor, y'all. Double tap that screen. Give this video a like. So that's where we are. I will be back tomorrow to...
So it looked like my bro dips out a little bit early. It's all good. We're still here. Okay. Garrett goes, so Tenny's saying, here, could you read this message from, this is from KK to Perez. Is asking, how does he look? And Perez says, shockingly good, better than before. Right? Who's Perez? Oh, it's Jonathan Perez. I think that's the assistant. So the chief of staff is asking the assistant, how does Diddy look? I guess Diddy look, right? Said better than before. And Sankar says yes, and they said nothing further. So, okay, that's really quick. That's really quick. Sankar. It's a summary witness. You know what I'm also looking for? I'm looking for the leaks in... I'm looking for the leaks of the audio, because all the audio they play in court, unless it says this is under seal, we should have access to. We should 100% have access to. It was so interesting. Many other outlets have stopped kind of covering this case as intricately. I think we're probably one of the biggest than Law and Crimes that we're still doing. Obviously, there's still journalists and bloggers that are at the courthouse, but we're not seeing, you know, I think people are a little bit fatigued. Some people are a little bit fatigued. So Brendan Paul, he's going to take the stand. Brendan Paul, maybe today. We didn't hear about that before. So Brendan Paul for sure is going to be, if you don't remember, this is the guy right here.
This is 25-year-old Brendan Paul. He's a former Syracuse University basketball player, but he's better known off the court as P. Diddy's alleged drug mule. These allegations date back to February, when a bombshell civil lawsuit against P. Diddy called out Brendan Paul by name, listing him as someone who allegedly acquires and distributes Diddy guns and drugs. This was the lawsuit filed by Rodney Jones, better known as Lil Rod.
Now, I thought this was very important. Lil Rod was not used, but Brendan, like, pieces of what he said. So, like, what Lil Rod said was not all lies. Some things were kind of, like, seen as dishonest, obviously. And by the way, I think they went in on trying to scold the lawyer for it. But there's certain things that were added that were included. Like, he mentioned Brendan Paul, but he mentioned it in the second indictment after Brendan Paul got arrested. So I don't know if he's seen it then just added it, but Brendan Paul is mentioned in the Second Amendment complaint.
He's P. Diddy's former producer, who laid out a laundry list of serious allegations against Diddy. Lil Rod claims Diddy sexually assaulted him, groomed him to have sex with celebrities, and was the kingpin in a gun, drug, and sex trafficking empire. Similar allegations against Diddy had already been brought forward back in November of last year, when 4 civil suits were filed against Diddy. That includes suits from his ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, who you know as the singer Cassie, along with Joy Dickerson Neal, Liza Gardner, and a woman who identified herself only as Jane Doe. All 3 women alleged Diddy raped them, with the allegations dating back to the early 90s. That brings us to March 25th of this year, when federal search warrants were executed at 2 of Diddy's properties in both California and Florida. Almost 2 months later, Diddy has not been arrested and no charges have been filed. But things didn't stay quiet in Diddy's world for long. On March 27th, just 2 days after those federal raids, Brendan Paul was arrested at the airport in Miami while trying to board Diddy's private jet. Paul was arrested and charged with cocaine and marijuana possession, but the latter charge was quickly dropped. Just this week, there's been movement in his case in the way of a plea deal. The bottom line, Brendan Paul will not face jail time.
And he would have been facing 5 years in prison.
Now, this was made a year ago. Now we get to kind of realize that his plea deal, well, that's a state case. But he could have called a federal case. And a federal case for being wrapped up in this RICO, but clearly they gave him some immunity and they didn't charge him. But apparently he's going to be taking a stand.
That's former prosecutor Melba Pearson, who previously worked in the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office, the same one that brought charges against Paul. As she explains, Paul's plea deal included something called a diversion program.
But since he did not have anything in his past, he didn't have a criminal history, he was offered what was called diversion. And what that does is that it gives you the opportunity for participation in a program for 6 months. If you don't get arrested again, if you complete the program, so it could be drug therapy, it could be counseling, it could be community service, it could be any of a number of things. It just could be a fine. You comply, you do all of that, and then after 6 months, the charges get dropped against you, meaning that you don't have anything on your criminal record in terms of a conviction. The rest will still be on your record. You'll have to disclose that if you're, let's say you do a job application and they ask whether or not you've been arrested, you have to answer yes. But if they ask you if you've been convicted, you can check no, which is, again, a huge thing in terms of collateral consequences and being able to move forward with your life after interaction with the criminal justice system.
Paul's attorney, Brendan Bieber, released this statement in regard to the plea, quote, Brendan accepted the prosecutor's offer to permit his entry into the diversion program, which, after completion, the case against him will be dismissed in its entirety. The Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office also made a statement saying the plea was a, quote, standard offer to a nonviolent defendant with no priors, who was arrested for a possession case instead of a much more serious trafficking case. From the time Brendan Paul was arrested in late March to now, it hasn't been that long, about 2 months. Are you surprised at how quickly things were wrapped up?
I'm not incredibly surprised because, again, this is something that happened in Miami. This is an office that I used to work for, and I remember the volume of cases I had when I was a prosecutor, especially a line prosecutor, handling that level of felony. So that is a normal outcome. That's not very bizarre. And actually, to put a finer point on it, I don't think that he had to testify or do anything else in exchange for the plea, right?
Yeah, so that's where I think it gets a little tricky, and I'm disagreeing with her, even though she's a former prosecutor. Well, yeah, it probably was standard, but even still discretionary for you to get the diversion program. But the feds came in at the same time. Remember, the feds are the people who were doing the search warrant, and through that he got arrested. But the arrest only came up on state charges. So I guarantee the state helped the feds put a squeeze on him to say, yo, you could get through this and you will have nothing on your record like it never happened. But you got to testify against Diddy, okay? And you're not testifying about this other stuff. We only know you used to bring drugs. You just got to see how you used to bring the drugs. Okay? That's all you got to do. So I do think, he had to do something. And I think the states helped the feds pressure him to be in this Fed case.
Right? Normally, if we see a case wrap up this quickly, that would be the first thing that I'd be asking, like, oh, okay, what else did you do in exchange for that favorable plea? But looking at his history, looking at the volume of cases, and also looking at the severity of the charge, in the universe of things, it's not trafficking. It's literally possession of cocaine with an argument that could have been made that this was for personal use. I wasn't trying to resell it. I wasn't trying to, take it overseas or make money off of it. This is just, for me to party this weekend, right? When you look at it from that perspective, the outcome, the resolution, the plea makes a lot of sense and is not outside of the norm.
We have to pause this Brendan Paul story for just a
ended those parties to the survivors, right? He procured drugs for the parties, but it didn't say much about him himself participating in harming people. I think that distinction would have been problematic if there was some discussion of him harming people. Then he may not have gotten a diversion plea. He may have gotten something along the lines of probation, and maybe there would have been more pressure on him to testify against Diddy in any investigation. Again, that's not to say that the feds can't call him up and
Somebody said if he rats the plug, cutting him off. He don't look like the kid that was like the plug. He looked like he just was the do boy who would know a guy who probably knew the guy to get the drugs, Okay. Let me see. Anything else? We're still waiting for some more stuff. Just give me a second here, people. They're pretty much about to go to break. They should be angling to go to lunch in a second. Let's see. Okay. So now the next government witness is it's another special agent, and they're gonna chart us to death, people. So there's another special agent. It's about charts. So these are certain meetings or whatever. There's a chart being shown about a meeting in the London hotel involving Sean, Cassie, and Jules. The chart shows lists of flights taken by meeting participants, including Jules and Cassie. The special agent is basically speaking on the chart, and they object. Okay? So this is all charts trying to simplify things. I thought we heard from Jules, but I guess not. I thought Jules was the first guy we heard from, and the guy also in the hotel. I don't know. Whatever. But they're having these charts to clearly show transportation and prostitution across state lines, okay? Maurice, thank you for the 2. Saying nothing bigger than the Academy gang. Appreciate you. So these summary witnesses aren't going to be the most entertaining thing, okay? By the way, this is when
the man accused of being a drug mule for music mogul Sean Diddy Combs is no longer facing any charges after he was arrested for narcotics possession. And this comes as the lawsuit he's mentioned in gets some major updates. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. He is in a Brooklyn detention center after a grand jury. And this lawsuit, aside from the multi-million-dollar civil lawsuit that was filed by Sean Combs' ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura, this was one of the first big red flags that indicated something big was on the horizon, because it included all sorts of allegations of illegal activity on a much grander scale. The lengths that Sean Combs and his staff allegedly went to in order to fulfill the record label CEO's desires. I mean, Rodney Jones brought up allegations about racketeering, this racketeering criminal enterprise. But back to Brendan Paul. Who is he? Well, he's apparently this Ohio native. He was a star basketball player at Syracuse and Fairmont State Universities. This is before he actually got involved in music production during the pandemic. But I will tell you, it's
the male Caitlin Clark.
Clear how exactly he got linked up with Sean Combs, or maybe got linked up with him. I'll say he has been named and photos of him have been included in Rodney Jones' lawsuit. Now, he's accused of carrying all sorts of drugs with him at all times for Sean Combs, and is also accused, by the way, of being involved in paying sex workers. Jones filed his lawsuit in February, and then he filed an amended complaint offering more details in March. And by the way, March was an important month in this case because that is when Combs' two mansions, one in Miami, the other in Los Angeles, were raided by federal authorities. Homeland Security investigators were seen at the properties carrying boxes of evidence out of those homes. Combs was not at either house during the raids, and there was concern at one point that he might have fled the country, but he was spotted later that day in Miami. Now, Combs wasn't arrested at that time. He wasn't charged with anything at that time, but it was clear that federal investigators were looking into his conduct, and there could be very serious legal action on the way. We were all saying for months, is it possible he's going to be indicted, and when would he be indicted? Okay. And then just two
justice system.
Nolle proseque. You know what? I haven't said it's abuse course. Now, the court website shows that the two original charges, they were felonies. That means potential jail time. Possession of cocaine, possession of a controlled substance, but no action was taken on the controlled substance charge, as I mentioned. And
would y'all call him a snitch? I mean, he used to get the drugs, but like, I don't know. It feels like anytime we're talking about like white people, it kind of is like, or even maybe it's just a worker, like an assistant. Like, could assistant snitch? Like, I don't think this guy was hanging with Diddy. Like, I think Diddy was hanging with his bodyguards and like some friends, which we haven't seen any of his friends get up there. But I could see, like, do y'all call this guy a snitch? I mean, maybe he is, because he, after all, it's not like you were doing your regular, the assistants aren't snitches because they were doing their regular jobs. They weren't doing crimes. This nigga was going to get drugs, and he knew that was a crime.
And the disposition for the cocaine charge is listed as nolle proseque. You know what? I haven't said that term since law school. Hopefully I said it correctly. A lot of people just say no pros. But it means that the prosecutor decided not to pursue charges. So the record indicates that Paul successfully finished that pretrial intervention, and that would be the conclusion of his case as for now. But now I want to talk about some of the accusations against Brendan Paul that are laid out in Jones' civil complaint. Because here's the truth. We don't know if Brendan Paul will somehow be connected to Sean Combs' criminal case.
Yes.
To be clear, though, when it comes to this, Paul is not named as one of the defendants that Jones is suing, but his alleged boss, Christina Corum.
Somebody say, yo, what the fuck? Actually sold drugs. Somebody say he's a civilian. Wait, could a civilian sell drugs?
Sure is. According to Jones, Paul reported to Corum. This was Combs' alleged chief of staff, and she has been described in this lawsuit as a Ghislaine Maxwell type to Sean Combs. Maxwell, of course, is the woman convicted of trafficking young girls on behalf of her boss, or associate, or friend, or boyfriend, I don't even know what you want to say, Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Corum was reportedly Combs' right-hand woman and had several direct reports, including Brendan Paul. This is according to the lawsuit. So the amended complaint reads, as the chief of staff, defendant Corum was instrumental in organizing and executing the RICO and TVPA enterprises. Now, RICO, of course, stands for Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. Basically, an allegation that Combs' enterprises, his businesses, really a criminal organization, and that its employees and associates were committing criminal acts in furtherance of that criminal organization. TVPA is the Trafficking Victims Protection Act that was passed in 2000 to combat human trafficking. The suit continues. Defendant Corum had the following individuals execute the following tasks for the RICO.
Every time I order liquor on DoorDash, they do me dirty. Look, like, nigga, this is like, I'm gonna drink this in 20 minutes. This is what they send. I said, look, give me the bottle of Tito's. You know the big one I usually have? They send me this. They don't give two damns about me.
And TVPA enterprises. Stevie J recruits sex workers and attends and participates in freak-offs. Justin Combs solicits prostitutes, underage girls, and sex workers, would engage in freak-offs. And Justin Combs is, of course, Diddy's son. He's also named as one of the defendants in this complaint. But it continues. Brendan Paul works as Mr. Combs' mule. He acquires and distributes Mr. Combs' drugs and guns. Frankie Santella works alongside Brendan, while Brendan acquires and distributes Mr. Combs' drugs and guns, Frankie carries the money and pays for the guns and drugs. And a footnote actually indicates that Frankie Sandhella was vice president of music management and strategic partnerships for Combs Global. But Paul is also named as one of the people who allegedly worked out fees with sex workers and made sure they got paid. And when it came to drugs, the complaint says there was a lot of them. Members of the enterprise and their associates procured, transported, and distributed ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, mushrooms, and 2C by packing these substances in their carry-on luggage and going through TSA. Now, we have told you before about 2C. It's also known as pink cocaine. It is a party drug that has surged in popularity here in the United States. It's actually not just cocaine, but usually is a mix of different psychoactive drugs. Researchers say, though, its pink color is just for aesthetics, it's just for looks. But going back to the complaint, it continues. Plaintiff Jones personally witnessed members of the enterprise do this during national and international travel as detailed below. Brendan Paul on December 22nd, 2022, from Miami, Florida to St. Bartholomew. Brendan Paul and Christina Coram on April 28th, 2023.
Now, remember, Christina Coram, who I think is so important, is not in this case at all, right? However, it was testified by Jane Doe, 57-day mom, that Christina Coram, and by the way, they have her phone though. They have her phone. The government has given no explanation why Christina Coram is not in this case. They have said nothing. She doesn't seem to be in custody. We've heard Diddy's lawyers say they have conferred with her lawyer, meaning it can't be that hostile of a relationship because her lawyer is talking to the defense seemingly to help the defense or to give information. That's interesting. Don't know why she's not in there. I'm pretty sure we'll find out at some point. However, the point that I'm bringing up is that she was the one who would tell Jane Doe, that's Daphne Joy, yo, just bring it in your purse. They won't check. Because remember, Diddy was flying her out. And Diddy would say sometimes the assistant Christina wouldn't be in the place that Diddy was at. So they would give Jane Doe drugs and say, nah, he needs those when y'all go do y'all thing. And she was nervous, like, I don't want to bring this in my purse. And they're like, no. We always have people bring this shit on the planes. You're fine. And supposedly Christina Coram told her that. And Christina even said, I bring the drugs up in my purse too. So what do you make of that? By the way, this is all if you believe these people, right?
From Los Angeles to New York City to Virginia and back to LA. Brendan Paul on November 4th, 2023, from Los Angeles, California to London, England. And then there's this footnote that says that Paul was seen packing cocaine into his carry-on luggage in Combs' garage the evening before that flight to London. The lawsuit also says that Paul was also required to have drugs on him all the time. It says, quote, the following is a screenshot of a video taken on Mr. Combs' yacht on or about December 25th, 2022 at 2:40 a.m. Brendan Paul is videotaped with one of the black pouches defending Combs and Christina Coram required the associates and members of the Combs RICO enterprise to carry. This pouch was filled with ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, mushrooms, and 2C. So a lot of serious allegations packed into this lawsuit, but again, Paul is not named as one of the civil defendants, and his drug case in Miami is now basically over. But of course, civil allegations are very different than criminal allegations, but there is an overlap between what prosecutors are alleging and what is being alleged in Jones' lawsuit. And I will say, since prosecutors have alleged that during these freak-off sessions, there has been rampant drug use, and these are those prolonged, coerced sexual performances involving sex workers, you have to wonder whether or not Brendan Paul is somebody prosecutors have spoken to, plan to call as a witness, whether or not his name will even come up.
Well, we now know that the answer to that. There is a sidebar currently in court. Sidebar is over. Sidebar is over. Let's see what happened. So Miss Johnson and AUSA Johnson is now questioning the special agent. Says, when you say you attended, do you mean Do you mean to say the people concerned appeared from records, absent a video to have attended? Special agent says yes. So I guess they're questioning him on his report. Who are the participation in this chat? This is Jules and Sean Combs. How about you read Jules? I'll read Mr. Combs, okay? Okay, the special agent says, okay. Jules is saying, I'm available Friday to Sunday. Whatever flights works. Which one? Combs says, Friday at 4. So they're proving, again, we haven't gotten any sex worker up there that said, I felt I was being sex trafficked. Not one. Even the guy who was the first person or the first sex worker, and he said he got called because of whatever, and then, they propositioned him. None of them said they felt they were sex trafficked. None of them said that. That was kind of an interesting thing. But let me ask you a question. Could a sex worker who's showing up to provide sexual services be sex trafficked? That's a good question to ask. I don't know. Anyway.
During the course of this criminal case, we shall see. But going back to this Jones lawsuit, we actually have an update for you on this. So, a new order came down from the judge overseeing this case and gave a partial win to Jones and also a partial win to the defendants. It's a bit complicated, it's a little complex, but here's the basics. So, when Rodney Jones' lawyer, Tyrone Blackburn, filed this original lawsuit in February, he named multiple defendants, including executives with record labels like Universal Music Group and Motown Records. And he alleged that those executives knew what Combs was up to and just let it happen. Well, Blackburn filed paperwork to voluntarily dismiss the defendant, Ethiopia Habtemariam, this is chief executive of Motown, and then later moved to dismiss all the claims against the music executive, saying, based on his examination of all the papers submitted in support of both motions to dismiss, he has concluded that there is no legal basis for the claims and allegations that were made against the UMG defendants. So those record executives wanted Blackburn sanctioned for basically wasting their time, allegedly.
Now, so here's the thing. Have you seen this?
Peter Nygaard is a Finnish Canadian.
Okay, brother. I can't do that. I can't do the voice. This guy's just, he was too Jamaican for me. Or too African, whatever it is. So if you guys don't know, Peter Nygaard is a fashion designer who essentially was convicted for having a sex trafficking ring. What he would do, he would get these young aspiring models. He had a lot of wealth, a lot of access, and also he was a gatekeeper to modeling for these young women. He would get them sometimes, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, underage. He would bring them to other countries and essentially fuck them all, okay? He would have private jets. It's kind of very similar to Jeffrey Epstein in a way. And apparently they're saying that Daphne Joy, who's 50 Cent baby mama, is linked to him. Which, by the way, this would be before 50 dated her. I'm actually surprised why 50 would even date Daphne if she was linked to this guy. But actually, I know a girl who was linked to this guy. This guy was getting I don't want to say getting pussy because this guy was sex trafficking people, but he was doing a lot.
Copyrights to the music, not under copyright, fair use.
Peter Nygaard's name has been recognized here in the Bahamas for years, but arguably never more so than right now, with all the headlines about rape allegations and lawsuits. We're on our way to a private location to meet with the women behind those claims.
It was me, my sister, and my cousin were inside the mall on a Saturday, and then we ended up passing Nygaard Film Store.
In a class action lawsuit filed in New York, she's among the first to come forward, called Jane Doe No. 1. And this is the first TV interview about her experience with Nygaard. Just graduated from grade 9, she was shopping for pens at the Nygaard store in the Bahamas.
Nygaard came, took my measurements because he said he wanted to make sure all his customers have something we could fit them. And we went to the front and took pictures.
This is Peter Nygaard himself.
Yes.
Did you know who Peter Nygaard was then?
Yeah, and we had a key in the Bahamas, Nygaard key.
And you knew he had a fashion
Yeah, the story last him.
What she says happened next is now a familiar plot in the Bahamas.
He asked me about the modeling, and then this lady came and took my number.
Did you in fact hear from her?
3 days later, she told me she was coming to pick me up and what time to be ready for.
You're being picked up in your home and taken to Nygaard Key?
Yeah, we had dinner. I still thought we were going to have this discussion about the modeling.
And did he in fact mention that?
No. But after he told me, let's go somewhere quiet to discuss business.
Where did you go?
To his bedroom.
You gotta really decide in your head just what is it you want to do, and a systematic way of drive yourself towards it. And then you have to say, okay, if I'm going to do this, this is what I have to do to get there.
It is not hard to find.
That it was I've read certain stuff about this guy. This guy was such definitely. I think most of these guys you got to call a sex addict, but he was so like addicted to this lifestyle. Supposedly he would get, and this is what I'm saying. In these cases, we're hearing a sanitized version. Even the crazy shit you're hearing with the semen is still sanitized. What was said about Peter Nygaard is that he caught so many STDs. And he had them untreated. He was giving out STDs as well. That supposedly his penis, this is how women described it, that his penis was like fucking, it looked like a mushroom or some shit like that. Like, I don't know, but they were saying it was because the dude would just keep fucking, catching 3, 4, 5 STDs. Like your immune system, I think over time maybe could kind of get rid of certain stuff, but certain stuff not really. The nigga was just, yeah. Like, I think I could Google that. Peter Nygaard. Pause. Me Googling Peter Nygaard penis. Oh, maybe the person was lying. It says the complaint was lying. He said he had a very small penis. What the fuck? But they were saying it was like disfigured because, and they said it was disfigured because of all the STDs this nigga caught they had never treated. I don't know.
Peter Nygaard boasting about his business prowess or his humble beginnings.
We didn't have running water. We didn't have heat.
Born in Finland, he arrived in Canada in 1952, the son of immigrants to Manitoba. By 1966...
Don't care about this part of it. I just want to hear the stories.
On my sweatpants, and he penetrated me.
According to the lawsuit, Peter Nygaard raped both Jane Doe number 1 and Jane Doe number 3 when they were 14 and 15 years old, respectively.
I've seen on numerous occasions females come, they are told that they're going to be the next top model, and it's nothing. After he already sexually abused them, he takes them and he forgets them just as quick as they come, as quick as they go.
The Fifth Estate has been
He's a Canadian Jeffrey Epstein.
Investigating allegations like these for years, since our first Nygaard documentary, which aired in 2010.
The after parties had nothing to do with trying to find a model. It was basically to procure women so that he would have the pick of the litter to decide who he was going to bed for the night.
Michelle and Alan May worked for Nygaard as his property managers in the Bahamas. That's when they met a young woman from the Dominican Republic named Maribel Rodriguez.
I think she was like 17 and she could hardly speak any English. And
so notoriously, the creeps of Jeffrey Epstein and Peter Nygaard, they would do their bidding in the Caribbean. They would take women from around the Ottawa, Winnipeg area of Canada, right? I think even Montreal as well, but also I think certain people from the United States and also some locals. They would, because of his status of being this like fashion mogul, he would say, yo, listen, you want a career? Okay, cool. Come get down with me. We're going on a trip, He'd fly them out, fuck the shit out of them. Again, they weren't with this, but a lot of them were under this idea that, oh, this is the way to get to be a big model. I forgot how much, like, with all the drugs that were involved in that, but essentially, he was on some, this dick is America's next top model's judge. So if you want to be a model, you got to please this dick. You feel what I'm saying? And then, you know, what him and Jeffrey Epstein did, they started being so prolific at their sex trafficking. They used to bring their other homies and say, yo, you want to fuck some, you know? And then they would go and fuck these people together.
She thought she was going to be a model.
Late one night, DeMay said something took place at Nygaard Key that frightened her.
She just panicked and just started screaming and crying, and she ran out, and she actually ended up finding us.
When we first reported on that in 2010, Peter Nygaard's lawyer sent us a statement from Maribel Rodriguez, insisting her stay was pleasant and fun, and calling Nygaard a real gentleman.
So I first met Maribel Rodriguez on a trip to Dominican Republic, 2012. Maribel was there in the blue passport.
Stephen Ferraglio says after Maribel's supposed vindication of Nygaard in 2010, she soon found herself on his company payroll.
From then on, she became kind of like a personal assistant. She was often the closest in proximity to Nygaard. I got to know her fairly well. She told me about her son and her mother who were in Dominican Republic. Maribel is in the red. To kind of attract and keep the girls around, Nygaard would promise them things, and these two girls in specific, he promised photo shoots. 1, 2, 3.
Maribel Rodriguez would travel the world with Nygaard, and the traveling party he calls his girlfriend. Nice! But as we'll show you, what might look like fun and games for people like Rodriguez was often anything but.
Yes, they traveled with him, but mistreats them sometimes, verbal abuse, mental abuse.
And what happens if they try to leave against his will?
They're held hostage.
Literally kept?
Yeah, the passports are automatic.
Okay. So there's a whole thing on Nygaard. I recommend you guys watch all these things. I think that's on Netflix as well. Hey, what I do want to, so let me give a little more cohesive like trace of what the fuck is happening. So, or the point I was trying to make. So Peter Nygaard, his Ghislaine Maxwell is this woman. So you know a little bit about Peter Nygaard now, right? So Peter Nygaard, his Ghislaine Maxwell, which is his right-hand woman, which in Diddy's case, if we're comparing Diddy to Jeffrey Epstein and Peter Nygaard, his Ghislaine Maxwell clearly is Christina Karam. Peter Nygaard's Ghislaine Maxwell was someone named Swalen Medeiros, okay? This is her here. But she was the person who they said facilitated a lot of the shit. By the way, you know, after that nigga went to jail, she looked like she landed on her feet, huh? Oh, man. You know, these women, they'll facilitate the shit because really, they only care about the money. They don't care if nobody else is getting victimized. They facilitate this at third. When the government come in, they snitch. Or not snitch, but they cooperate, and then they go back to, they just go get another guy, because, you know, as long as their beauty hasn't faded, they're so good. Swalen Medeiros, Peter Nygaard. Okay? Let's look that up. Model talent agencies among co-conspirators. Name, okay? This is him and her. Okay? So, by the way, you should be able to tell. Pretty young girl. They're with this guy. Guy looks old as dirt. You know what I'm saying? And the lawsuit claimed that she trafficked women for Peter Nygaard, right? So let's look at that connection real quick. Here we go. Okay. Just give me 1 second. Which one's?
Definitely.
And so, you never been to the island with Peter Nygaard, though?
I've hung out with Peter Nygaard.
Oh, we got to get into
I know exactly, and I never went on that island.
Yeah. Okay, so for those of you that don't know who Peter Nygaard is, he pays women to shit on him, right?
Yes.
Okay.
God damn.
What?
He's a billionaire who owns a private island. Shout out to Sule Madero. She's been there a lot of times.
Wasn't that his girlfriend? Like he bought a Ferrari for her and the whole nine. And
yeah, but I heard the house mother wasn't happy with her. She got that Ferrari taken. I don't know all the details. Wait, let me talk to this is my girl.
So Sule Madero got the Ferrari. She was starting to like help out supposedly.
Let me tell you why I like her. Because these girls out here in Hollywood really be trying to be coy about this Hollywood shit. And it's real out here. This is a different culture. It's a different environment. And that people are out here making money. Whether it's through social media, whether through spending time, whether it's flying to an island and getting shitted on. Because I tell you, the way some of my bills show up in the mail, I'll get shitted on for a good check.
You'll get shitted on or you'll shit on?
I'll paint that shit all over my face. And you treat me like Play-Doh, motherfucker. You put shit right here, you put shit right here. I wouldn't give a fuck. What you gonna say?
So wait, have you been to the island, you say, right?
Yeah, I've hung out with Peter Nygaard a couple times.
But you ain't do no shit.
No, I didn't do any shit.
You did some fuck.
Wait, hold on. Does he like to shit on girls or like to get shit on? He likes getting shitted on. Yes. Yeah. The reason why I know, because now you guys are like, well, something's not adding up. I was legit just in my head thinking,
Melissa, you wouldn't let anybody shit on you? Let me set it up first. Hold on. Peter Nygaard, billionaire, flies you to a private island, has all the cocoa butter you have to rinse that off and to moisturize after he paints you with a bunch of diarrhea. Would you do it?
I can't. No. And let me tell you something. Hold on. Let me tell you something. I have gotten the invite to go to that island.
Wow.
And I never, ever went. I wish somebody would try to say
$1 million.
I'm setting that up.
No, you're not.
I'm going to go with you.
$1 million.
Because I'll be the friend that rinses the shit off.
And you get shitted on, okay?
How about this? We both get shitted on together.
What about you, Liz? You have a price?
No, I think if you actually play your cards right, you can get paid for not doing anything. Because that was my situation with Peter. They actually reached out to me and were consistent. So when I finally went and hung out with him, I literally sat next to him at the poker table. Whatever he played, he won. He gave me some money, and that was how I got paid for
most rich guys want pretty girls just to be in the room. Floyd Mayweather loves pretty girls to be around. He ain't hitting all them girls, and I think it's the perception because y'all have it so hard. You take a picture with any guy. We should take a picture. Yeah. We should take a picture today.
Or does he like it?
Interesting. Okay, so we get to find out the Sule Madero girl is his Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, Sule Madero, apparently she was friends with Jane Doe, a.k.a. Daphne Joy. Okay? This is back in 2012. Sule Madero rumored to have threesomes with 50 Cent's lover, ex-lover, and boyfriend. Brazilian model Sule Madero had a birthday threesome with 50 Cent's ex-girlfriend Daphne Joy and her sex tape co-star, according to rumors. Gossip claims they have a wind of a freaky story involving the three. It was a celebration of Sule's 25th birthday in Los Angeles that ended with the three of them headed back, for some after-hour shit. We heard the three continued to party into the evening, well into wee hours of the night after the clubs was closed. Where do you go after the clubs is closed? Sounds like a wild night, freaky time. So it's Daphne Joy has reportedly been in separate scandal of her own, claiming 50 Cent was once embroiled in beef with her. And listen, I'm gonna do a lot of connections here, Chad. Just tap in. Daphne Joy reportedly been in a separate scandal of her own with Gossip. Okay, also claiming 50 Cent was once involved in a beef with Joy's comedian boyfriend, D-Ray Davis, the star of Barbershop. Okay? D-Ray threatened to blackball Joy from the modeling industry after finding out that she left him for Fifth, but backed down because the rapper reportedly told him, back off or else. Okay? So now y'all see why the Nygaard thing comes in. She's really close friend with the Ghislaine Maxwell of, by the way, chat, this is some underground sex shit going on. So Daphne Joy is really close with the Ghislaine Maxwell for Peter Nygaard. So you understand why when Diddy starts suggesting certain stuff, maybe it's not the first time she ever heard of suggestions or that some of these entertainers or moguls have proclivities to these type of lifestyles. Remember, they're only fucking with billionaires. This is billionaire shit. Okay, let's not stop there, okay? Let's not stop there. As we mentioned, her comedian ex-boyfriend. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. Hold on, give me a second. Let's look at this. Back in 2011, this was a tweet supposedly aimed at, how you model for Smooth magazine if your coochie bumpy. Team D-Ray Getter. LOL, no sauce. Bodyguard that. Yo, Brittany Daly, I've been good, right? Okay. At the time, it appeared to be nothing more than a breakup chat. But in light of recent events, people are interpreting this word as an allegation of, okay. Now, that also came up when Floyd Mayweather writes Instagram caption dissing 50 Cent. Here we go.
Yo, what up, guys?
This was
jealous.
Look, Curtis, confidential informant. You're mad because your oldest son, Marquise, mother doesn't want to be with you. Your son, your own flesh, your blood, want nothing to do with you. You haven't had a hit song on the radio in God knows how long, and you definitely ain't hot enough to sell records anymore, so Interscope dropped you. You're jealous of any rapper, athlete, or entertainer that's hot or got something going on for themselves. You're a certified snitch. We got paperwork to prove it. You talk about Ja Rule, but you stole his whole style and ran with it. You're the only self-proclaimed gangster that never put in work. You need to pay homage to the real 50 Cent for stealing his name and his storyline. Your claim to fame was getting shot numerous times and living to tell it. That's gangster? Where at? You're currently living in a fucking apartment in Jersey. You're always at someone else's business just to stay relevant. You should become a blogger because it's obvious you don't have nothing going on in your life. Are you mad at Kanye West because he ended your career? The only thing you got going on is power, and everybody watches that because Ghost, such a dope-ass character on the show. You can leave the show and everybody will still watch Power. But out there in the real world, I'm the real Ghost. It's not a mansion in Connecticut that you're in debt for. That's a dump, a money pit, an oversized trap house. It was dope when Mike Tyson had it in the late 80s, early 90s, but you couldn't afford to maintain it. You're always talking about somebody's broke. But last time I checked, it was you, Curtis, that filed for bankruptcy, not Floyd Mayweather. So quick to gossip like a bitch. Well, why don't you tell everybody how you got herpes from DJ? DJ. Doing the math? Where are your memes at for that? Huh? Or better yet, post on how your Coca-Cola deal wasn't really $300 million, you fucking liar. Tell how that spinning G-Unit necklace that somebody got robbed for was fake. Just remember, I was with you every day, and your driver, Bruce, was also my driver. I know where all the bones are buried, so be easy, Curtis. And by the way, I never asked to borrow no money. Don't ask to borrow no money from me. Y'all putting together these pieces? Peter Nygaard. Sulin Medeas, or whatever her name is. Daphne Joy. D-Ray Davis. 50 Cent. 50 Cent, Jason Derulo. Puff Daddy. Y'all getting it now? Now, this gets a little bit deeper, but I don't know if y'all want to go this hard. It gets slightly even more deeper. Hold on. I don't lose some of y'all. Give me 1 second. You know the question I do have to 50? I wonder how he found her. Because the way how Daphne Joy been operating, she been operating as, and I hate to call her this, but she's been operating like a escort for the better of 15 years. It's interesting when 50 calls her a little sex worker when she didn't start that after 50. She was doing it before. She's linked with Peter Nygaard, who was literally sexually assaulting women and only really hiring women who were on some pay-for-play shit. She was doing threesomes with other people linked to Peter Nygaard. How did you, and by the way, did D-Ray Davis ever talk about that? D-Ray. I know D-Ray about to DM me too. D-Ray. How did you find her? Because women who move in those circles only usually deal with men that like those type of things.
Hi, Daphne. How you doing today? So how was the party at Pretty Little Thing? Really? You got a lot of good stuff there.
I'm a big fan.
So like, are you working with them now, or like, what's going on with you and them?
Yeah, I've actually been working with them for like 2-3 years.
Oh, okay.
They're awesome.
Okay, so you're kind of like an OG in the Pretty Little Thing game. What all are you working on right now?
I have my own fashion brand right now, Daphne's Collection.
Cool.
So you guys can
Check that out. Okay, sounds good. Well, good seeing you today. Thank you.
Sam, I see you texting me. We're thinking on the same realm. If there's so much dots to be connected here, so I do have how 50 met her. You know where she comes from? Just let's keep connecting dots here, guys. Oh, actually no, Nelly's ex. Nelly ex Chantel Jackson. Sorry, Miss Jackson. Okay? All of these women come from the harem of Floyd. Floyd has had one of the best harems known to man. Chantel Jackson. So Nelly's ex, who, remember, she was like, Chantel Jackson talks about Nelly. She said she told Nelly we should take a break, and that nigga went and wifed up. Look at this. Nigga, she looks so hurt. I felt so bad for her.
Think or have this make-believe story. I left because I wanted, initially, I guess, space to see maybe will the space bring us back together, or do I need this space because I just need to rip off that Band-Aid? So, and initially I wanted the space or the break to rip that Band-Aid off. So, but no, like, no ill will, nothing bad. Just sometimes people don't work out. People grow apart. Like sometimes one person might want to be still in the situation and the other person is like, this isn't working. It happens, you know?
Basically, her ass wanted to take a break from Nelly, thinking Nelly was going to chase her. Nelly told her deuces, upgraded. And then she's on Instagram looking like this, like, what? Nelly upgraded with a star, Ashanti, and had a baby with her, okay? Hollywood story. Okay. But this woman, before she was with Nelly, Chantel Jackson, Floyd Mayweather. She comes from the Floyd Mayweather harem. So does a lot of other women. I believe, wasn't Lena Sayed even with Floyd? Or no, that's Taz Angels. Fuck. That, no. There's another woman. No, Ray J's wife, ex-wife, Princess Love, Floyd Mayweather. Chat. This shit goes deep. This goes deep. Princess Love used to be around. I don't want to get into the Princess Love stuff. Let's stick with Chantel Jackson. By the way, she sued him later. What's she suing for? Wow, here we go. Oh, she claimed Floyd abused her. Okay. I don't know who won this lawsuit. Who won the lawsuit? Whatever. Okay. So she sued him. But before she sued him, this was them. Here we go.
Like gets cast off the island.
What do you mean?
Like,
what do you mean, baby?
Because I mean, it's
we know a few of them. Miss Jackson was casted off the island. What do you mean? I mean, I don't never get a life preserver. If she get a life preserver, I'm gonna pop that motherfucker myself.
Now, I know y'all are saying, I get to the point. Chantel Jackson, who was with Nelly left, got with Ashanti. But before she was with Nelly, she was part of the harem. She was actually the lead. She was the lead woman on Floyd's harem, right? Now, Chantel Jackson, Daphne Joy. It's suspected that Chantel is friends with Daphne Joy. That's how people think. It's like a two-mans. You bring your girl, she brings her friend. 50, who is friend with Floyd, 50 meets Daphne Joy, wipes her up, puts a baby in her. So really, this is Floyd. So when Floyd said, we know you caught that shit from Daphne, I know where the bones are buried, Floyd ain't capping. Because 50 doesn't meet his second baby mom until Floyd's main harem leader, Chantel Jackson, that was her friend. You can find a bunch of them. Look, Chantel and Daphne, look, courtside. See? It's a lot more there, chat. It's a lot more. That's them together right here. It's them together right there. Them together right there. I'll get a video of them being with Floyd together. Now, it was funny when Floyd said, you caught that shit from DJ, because the whole time I'm thinking, well, Floyd, didn't you fuck both of them? I don't know if he did, but it gets deeper. As I keep trying to tell you. Chad. There we go. Let's go to YouTube. Floyd Daphne Joy, Chantel Jackson. Here we go. Now, Chantel continued to hang around Daphne even after 50 stopped talking to 50 kept hanging around Daphne, who still hung around Chantel, because Chantel stopped dealing with Floyd even after 50 and Floyd didn't get along. Hold on, I'm just trying to find like a good video for y'all. Here we go. Okay. All right. This is too much to find. Oh, here we go.
Welcome, that was around how any, negative prep. Chantel killed, her.
Anyway, she sued him. Who cares? So y'all like getting what I'm saying. This was Floyd talking about Chantel. Remember Chantel, head of the harem, friends with Daphne Joy. You see the friends Daphne Joy has. Daphne Joy is friends with women in like almost this underground, y'all know what it is, right? She friends with the chick who's cool with Peter Nygaard. We see what happened with him. Now, we ain't saying nothing about Floyd, but Floyd got a collection of girls, as we all know. Shit, he has a club called Girl Collection. Literally. Like, I don't know if y'all know. Y'all should know, right? Like, Floyd literally has a Floyd Mayweather club, Girl Collection. He has a literal club called Girl Collection. Literally. You get what I'm saying? But Floyd has been known for having them bad bitches. Like, his shit kind of resembles like the Taz Angels, except he's lit. The Taz nigga, people just thought was pimping, which I don't know what happened to him, but a lot of women came out of that harem, including Devin Haney's chick, who they're going through it now. That's a whole nother drama there. Like, the Taz Angels girls is a whole different thing. That's Miami, I think. But from the Vegas side, you get Floyd bitches. It's a lot you can start connecting here, chat. It's a lot. Anyway, let's get back to the Diddy trial a little bit. I don't need to play. Let me see. Did Floyd say anything about this?
I mean,
So that was a tumultuous relationship. I'm talking about somebody.
What do you mean tumultuous?
Okay, I'm sorry.
There you go. You have big ass words, and that's now gonna get you in trouble.
I'm gonna tell you what happened, okay? And we're gonna talk about this. Only one time people see me really go off on the deep end on social media.
Yeah.
The reason
they don't know why though.
I'm gonna tell you, the reason why I did that is because of this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that at least I deserve honesty. So when we was on, the show All Access,
Mm-hmm.
and I went on there and I talked from the heart. Like, you know what?
It's not scripted.
No, I talk on All Access. I talk from the heart. I was like, yo, listen, I'm going through a lot within training camp is because, my lady sent me a sonogram. My lady sent me a sonogram, and she lost 3 babies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she lost 3 babies. It was 2 babies for sure, maybe 3. She lost 3 babies. So I'm like, man, a life is so precious, but 3 lives.
And you just talked about how much you love your kids and how much.
Yeah, I love my babies. And I talked about that, and I was going to show the sonogram on All Access. And I'm glad that I never showed the sonogram on All Access is because it had marked abortion. So she had an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that she done it. I'm saying I was told that she done it because she didn't want to mess up her body. And I'm more like, we could have.
You paid for that body anyway.
I don't really.
Right back.
So what he was saying was the only time that the world saw him really lose it publicly was
because I didn't like that. Because you put me.
By the way, this is Daphne's like one of her best friends, right? Chantel.
If a woman could just leave me at the drop of a dime, if any woman,
Mm-hmm.
it don't have to be just Mitch. Any woman can leave me at the drop of a dime. If any woman could, it wasn't genuine love, no way.
Did you feel betrayed?
No, absolutely not. I feel like
when she lied to you about the miscarriage, did you feel betrayed?
I was hurt, and I'm gonna say this to the public. I was hurt. I love hard. When I give you, if I give you 100%, I expect you to give me the same thing. I cannot give you 100%, and you give me
50, 80.
Then you give me 60. Then
even 97.
It's not genuine.
I feel if you get 100%, you deserve 100%, not 99.
Because
not
when
95.
she came to me, and you gotta realize I was taking care. I just wanted the best for any woman that I was ever dealing with. I only want the best for them.
Mm-hmm.
If they're in my life or they're not in my life, I'm not here to say, "Oh, I hope you fail. I hope you know." I don't know what she's doing now because the thing is, I don't have social media on my phone. I have better things to do. Like when you got
Daphne, Floyd, Chantel. Daphne, Floyd, Chantel.
$2 billion in real estate, and you got 3 jets.
You're kind of busy.
Oh man,
you got a lot going on.
Yeah,
and then I just got a new strip club that I'm opening up. I'm very, very busy. I'm not gonna sit right here and say that people that's around me has never came to me or sent me something, said, "Oh, look what's going on with Princess," or "Look what's going on with Miss Jackson." People say
Princess Love, Ray J wifed up and had kids with. That's history. A lot of these bad chicks that everybody else adopted a lot of them came from Taz Angels or Floyd's harem. Floyd was getting these chicks first. And these chicks were more than happy to be in, because Floyd would treat them so well. If he had 6 or 7 of them, they probably had drama, but they were all on Floyd's team. Little by little, as they're aging, they realize, okay, I've gotten all the bags I could get. What's the next move? Yeah, maybe it ain't Floyd, TBE, but I could get with all due respect, I could get a Ray J to wife me. I could go over here and go get a Jason Derulo and 50 and D. Ray Davis to wife me. It is what it is. Oh shit, I can't give Floyd ain't whatever. Let's go over here. At least Nelly gonna just give me a one-on-one situation. You feel me? But Floyd had a lot of them joints first. Keep it a bean.
my thing is this. You know what I say? If they're in a better situation, that's better for them. Because I don't want to say. I don't want to be in a situation where I have to argue with a woman every day. And I tell Bad Medina the same thing. We go through a lot of ups and downs, and I say, sweetheart, you can't focus on that. What you need to focus on is your makeup line. You need to focus on being an entrepreneur.
All right, and the Floyd rabbit hole goes a lot deeper. There was another boxer that had a romantic interest in a girl that he was dealing with exclusively. She was one of the people supposedly on like Floyd's harem or something like that.
I know.
The dude called Floyd, I believe,
called
Floyd on FaceTime and killed the girl and killed himself. It was a murder-suicide. So Floyd kind of been having him, but a lot of those girls that came out of that little thing, we're now seeing like all these names popping up is like, if you know in the industry, be like, oh, we know where this chick been around. You know what I mean? They might look good on Instagram, but yeah. So anyway, interesting. Lauren Collin is checking in.
Okay, this is a good test though.
It's day 24 of the United States versus Sean Combs, and juror number...
No. I agree. Green bands. Nygaard had them first. But Nygaard, having them first is like 16 and 17 he's having them. He had them at 16 and 17. Floyd had them at 22. And then when they're getting towards 30, they find another rapper to settle down with. That's how most of these women were moving. Nygaard get them at 16, 17. The rappers get them, or Floyd get them at 22. Send these joints out,
Number 6 was officially dismissed this morning. The defense had filed a letter on the 15th, which was last night, to the judge, stating that if this juror was officially dismissed, they would most likely move for a mistrial. They, again, I had mentioned this before, they really think that there is some racial bias going on because he was one of 5 black jurors. I think I had originally said 4, but there were 5. And the judge said that it would be improper to allow race to play a factor as to the fitness of this juror because there were clear inconsistencies when he was questioned multiple times about his residency. The judge said, look, this is why we have alternates, and there was an alternate juror in his place, and I think he'll be questioned by the end of the day, but this alternate juror, he was significantly older. He was also a male. And, just my opinion really quick, I watched the juror that was dismissed a lot because he was kind of on the end, and I saw his facial expressions. He seemed to be horrified a lot of the time. He was stressed. or look stressed a lot of the time. He would always look at the clock. So, you know, I don't know if that meant that he thinks Diddy is guilty, not guilty, but I'm just saying he was one of the jurors that did show a lot of expression. So then we started with the summary witness, Ananya Sankar, who worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office.
My bad, y'all, man. I ain't gonna lie, I had to go to the room real quick. You know. Okay, I just making sure I wasn't froze. I had to go to the room real quick, man.
She is a paralegal specialist, and she organizes the intake of evidence and trial prep. So she was pretty much taking us through communications. There were these charts on the screen, and it was KK's devices from March of 2016 through February of 2024. And she kind of went through certain text messages and recordings and things from KK's phone and told us why they were accurate, went through all these accuracy procedures and whatnot. Now, some of these text messages, I mean, I'll just go through the gist of what we saw, which I think is just more corroboration to the indictment and I guess the government's case in general, because there were texts about getting cash for Diddy when he was at these hotels, assistants, you know, picking it up from whichever security guard had the cash. There was also an assistant texting, Jessica Ruiz texted KK flight information for, quote, Paul Arthur, who we know was an escort. That directly relates to the indictment as well, transportation to engage in prostitution. There was a text from Jane asking KK for cash for Diddy around 5 to 10K. There were also texts about getting packages from someone named Guido, who I guess we're speculating is perhaps a drug dealer, because there was multiple mentions of Guido in Christina Quorum's text messages. There were also some audio recordings. One of them, I believe we had heard before. It was Diddy talking to Jane in 2023, shortly after Kathy's lawsuit dropped, just saying, you know, I'm sorry that you felt this way. I didn't know that. You know, how do we move on, etc. And then Jane kind of crying and
Diddy didn't take advantage of y'all hoes. Y'all hoes wanted y'all wanted this shit. So I think that's what's happening. I think the prosecutor knew that. Yo, this is gonna be a problematic juror. Because they brought up a really odd issue. Why the hell you're bringing up now? Oh, they live in Jersey. So you tell me y'all went through jury deliberation and all this, like they heard the entire case now, or the entire case so far. Now you want to get them out of here? Maybe you want to get them out of here because they look like, you know, remember they're saying Diddy looking at them, looking at the juries, he keep nodding like, maybe they're making eye contact. Diddy making eye contact over there, and they're like, oh, okay, this ain't good.
Thank you, Alex.
This ain't good. This gonna be the one jury that's gonna fuck the case up. Diddy giving this person eye contact, you know what I mean? Nah. So I think it's much more than just the person living in Jersey. Much more, but let's keep going.
And by the way, today, Christina Quorum has maybe come up more in these exhibits, in this evidence from this summary witness more than throughout this trial. Question from Mikey John. Elizabeth, are you surprised that KK wasn't called to the stand yet?
Yes, absolutely. Like that, no brainer. I'm truly surprised that she's not being called as a government witness, especially because they have her devices. She could be somebody who could really kind of tie up the loose ends or maybe answer the questions that a lot of us still have in our brains. And so I'm really surprised that, especially as we're trickling down to the end of the government's case, that the next witness isn't Christina Quorum. And I'm wondering at this point, is it possible the defense might call her? And if the defense does call her, what that could look like? And so I'm really and truly surprised that they're using her devices.
Now, let me say this. Let me put my input in on this. Anybody who ain't show for the prosecutor, I think they're available to show for the defense, but why do it? Don't open Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Because yes, they got some of their messages, say D-Rock messages, KK messages, but you don't want to put KK up there and the state says, got this bitch. Not state, I mean the government, federal government. We got this bitch. We've been trying to get her to, we need her up there for a week. We're going to do our recross because at that point, Diddy's team is doing direct. because it's gonna be a defense case. They're gonna say we need her up there for a week because she's integral to the case. We're gonna break her down like a kilo of coke. So it's kind of like Tory's situation. Me personally, I wholeheartedly believe that Tory knew what that driver was. I think Tory knew what that driver was. The driver was a little bit antsy because some stuff he can't get up there and lie. That's perjury. Some stuff could be hurtful to Tory, and I think they said because they don't want him up there, maybe saying, "Yeah, I seen Tory put hands on a woman," or what. I don't know what happened. I think they opted for him to show up the last day. I don't think nobody contacted him and he showed up the last day. The state said we couldn't find that nigga, and he just walked into court the last day. I think Tory had him under the, but I think that was a bad move by Tory. Tory's team, in my opinion, y'all got 4 people in the car, 3 dumb drunk, 1 threw up or passed out for hours. That's Kelsey.
That's Kelsey.
Meg got kicked out. She's being belligerent. She's being extra drunk. Tory's lit. If you got that nigga under the tuck, have him just come out and say, yo, everybody was drunk but me. I'm the driver, I'm the security, this what happened. Now they might be like, well, you're Tory's security. You're Tory's driver. So how should we believe you? But fuck that. Fuck all of that shit. You know what I'm saying? That becomes the point. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think they didn't want to open up that guy to cross-examination. Which this is why when we think about a Diddy case, why bring KK up there? KK is accused of doing the same shit as you. Why bring her up there if Diddy not taking a stand? Just don't bring her. So I don't think KK taking a stand. I just don't know how she's not taking a stand without her not being in jail. They've threatened everybody else in this case. It's clear. Brendan Paul, Brendan Paul got his state charges resolved. Why is he taking a stand? You think he's a volunteer snitch? I get it. Maybe some of y'all do. But he's taking a stand because they threatened his ass. Nigga, we will charge you as part of this RICO. You was bringing that man drugs and helping him drug women. So, nigga, if you don't take the stand, you part of this shit.
So he took
How
the
KK
stand.
ain't get no threats? Why is she not up there? I don't know. I don't know how she avoids it. But Diddy's team
need help quitting nicotine, saying no to tobacco. The Mississippi Tobacco Quit Line.
I digress.
As the government is, but they're not calling her as a witness. So yes, definitely surprised there.
And we have a question from Allison Thompson about the judge, Judge Arun Subramanian. What has the judge's body language been like? Do you get any vibes as to which side is favored? Well, the judge shouldn't shouldn't favor any side, but do you get a? I mean, we don't know how he's behaving, what his demeanor's like. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so as far as the judge's demeanor, all across the board from what I've seen so far during this trial and even during the pre-trial hearings, is that he's very fair. Like, it's never a situation where you're kind of like, oh, he's a little pro-government here or he's a little pro-defense here. He really kind of gives both sides their wins when it's applicable, right? And even as in terms of just his body language while listening to the testimony and if there's an objection from one side. So, for example, if the defense has an objection to the prosecution's line of questioning, he kind of gives the prosecution a little bit of leeway to be like, okay, maybe you want to rephrase that question so that way we can get rid of the objection, so that way we can continue on with the proceedings. And then if there's a point where, there's an objection, there has to be a discussion that's had in the sidebar, he's willing to do a sidebar. And so from the most part, and this should be how every judge kind of operates a courtroom, I think you should always take notes from Judge Arun Subramanian. He is above board, he is fair on both sides, and really it's never a situation where you have to feel like he is, or you think that he is biased in any sort of way.
Let me get another question to you, Elizabeth, before we have to
So I said, look up KK and who her family is. Christina Karam. Who's her family?
Yeah.
Who's her family? She's been the most elusive person out of everything. I don't even think we've heard her speak publicly.
everything in my life and my business running. She named in a lawsuit by a former producer for Combs. Thanks for joining me for Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. When Rodney Little Rod Jones filed that lawsuit against Sean Combs and many others, Christina Coram was one of the people.
Man, I don't know how to act be drinking everything, man. I don't know how you do it. My boy be lit.
Named as the defendant in the suit. And I want to be crystal clear. Sean Combs has vehemently denied these allegations. His attorney, Sean Hawley, has been quoted as saying they've tried to present evidence to Little Rod's attorney to disprove the claims, but they've been rebuffed. So that would make anything Little Rod claimed about Christina Coram untrue as well in Combs' eyes. No attorney is listed for Christina Coram on the federal court's website. Coram's now deleted LinkedIn account has said that she joined Bad Boy Entertainment back in 2013 and became Combs' day-to-day manager, later becoming director for the Officer of the Chairman. And the chairman, of course, is Diddy. She was promoted to Diddy's chief of staff back in 2020, and she's very important to him. Combs has even written about her on social media. Meet Christina Coram, chief of staff at Combs Enterprises. Christina, aka KK, keeps everything in my life and my business running. She's been my right hand for the last 8 years and has consistently proven to execute and get S-word done. Don't know how I'd function without her. In another post, Diddy wrote, "Happy birthday to my ace Boon Coon, my right hand, my day-to-day manager that keeps my world twirling, and she's always got my back. She makes sure that I smile every day and I don't go into those dark places. Today is your day. It's your mother effing birthday. Go KK, it's your birthday. Love you at Christina Coram." Combs clearly values Christina Coram's work and his relationship with her. The lawsuit Lil Rod filed makes some disturbing and salacious claims against Coram, and again, Combs has denied what's in that lawsuit. First, Lil Rod has claimed that Mr. Combs' chief of staff, Christina Coram, also known as KK, instructs her staff to retrieve drugs so she can provide them to Mr. Combs for his consumption. A footnote in the lawsuit that Little Rod filed says, defendant Coram instructed her staff, Brendan Paul, Frankie Santella, and Moy Bond, to spike bottles of champagne with ecstasy. Upon information and belief, this occurred the day of December 31st, 2022, New Year's Eve party. Lil Rod claims he complained to Coram about sexual advances from Combs, and she responded, "Sean will be Sean," and downplayed Combs groping him as horseplay, stating, "He's just showing that he likes you." Jones also called Coram the Ghislaine Maxwell to Sean Combs' Jeffrey Epstein, claiming she required employees to walk around with fanny packs of cocaine, GHB, and ecstasy to keep Combs high, and much more. Gene Rossi is a former federal prosecutor. So Gene, there's this allegation that Christina Coram, the chief of staff for Sean Combs, is ordering drugs through this guy, Brendan Paul, the so-called drug mule, and ordering employees to run around with black fanny packs that carry these drugs so that Sean Combs can be high all of the time. That seems like typical Hollywood stuff, possibly. What's the crime in that, potentially, as far as the feds are concerned?
Well, in my view is you have a potential, they did a search warrant, the federal government did a search warrant, Southern District of New York. That is bad in itself because Southern District of New York is one of the top 3 or 4 U.S. attorney's offices in the country. That is very bad for Mr. Combs and the other defendant in Ms. Coram. The second thing is the federal charges that they're probably investigating are a criminal RICO, money laundering, a Mann Act violation, which involves sex trafficking, interstate transport of minors. It could involve a lot of charges. So let me focus on...
That was a year ago before the indictment.
On the allegation. It seems, according to the allegation, that Ms. Coram was a purchaser of large amounts of drugs that went to Mr. Combs, but I can't help but believe that these employees were also providing these drugs to the victims, to other customers, not just the employees and Mr. Combs. So it wasn't just drugs, in my view, for Combs alone. It was probably used by the employees and also used by the victims of this crime.
There's a particularly disturbing allegation that Christina Quorum, according to this lawsuit, was ordering people to spike bottles of champagne for a New Year's Eve party a couple of years back, and ordering them to spike it with certain drugs. And then the claim is that maybe there were minors at this party and things like that. What trouble could she be in regarding that allegation?
Well, it's part of the sex trafficking, and when it involves minors, that takes it up a notch.
Y'all
and
ain't
it's
gonna
either
lie.
a separate federal statute or it's a sentencing enhancement.
Starting to rain.
But when you're engaging in illegal conduct and excuse me,
I'm gonna come back tonight, do a live about day whatever with no weed. I just wanted to play a little bit of this morning since I had time. I think it's been going for how long I've been on here? A while. So I'm pretty much gonna end it here and go handle my other business. So love y'all. Y'all make sure to subscribe. I hope y'all subscribe during this live. I can't see yet. And yeah.